Okay, I've been studying Professor Daniel Boyarin this morning, and he's got a really fascinating um, take on Christianity as Judaism. And I discovered his writing. I was reading this book I just got in the mail yesterday, um, and she cites Boyarin. And actually, I searched. She mentions Paul, the the writings of Paul talking about the second heaven, and that's a concept from Merkava mysticism. But usually, Merkava mysticism is considered to be a later development. But if it's in Paul, that's is Daniel Boyarin was cited as evidence. That's evidence for early Merkava mysticism. And so his whole argument is that the concept of an incarnated Son of Man already existed in Judaism, but it had to be um, dismissed. It had to be debated in Orthodox Judaism, then just argued that you just need to follow the law of the Torah as written down, and that the wisdom of the logos is found in the written word. Um and then Christianity argued that if you believed in the logos as being not Jesus, then you were being uh a Jew, or a heretical, a heresy. And so his claim is that the concept of the logos actually was rejected by both Judaism, Orthodox Judaism, and Orthodox Christianity with the Nicene Creed, that argues that Jesus is different than the Logos. And um, and so it's a fascinating claim, because when you look at the Merkaba mysticism meditation, I discovered that one of the meditations is on the 12 zodiacs as the 12 angels. And if it's a meditation, it looks exactly like the small universe meditation. They have the 12 points of the zodiac, but you're supposed to meditate on them, so that would, as angels, and you see them as light that's moving. And then that's connected with the overall, deeper meditation. So it looks like exactly the same as what I discovered it, what I claim to be because in Pythagorean philosophy, you have this circulation of the light, is what they call it, based on the 12 and of the zodiacs. And so that's, if Paul's talking about the third heaven or second heaven, I think it's third heaven. Um, yeah, third heaven. So that proves that this Merkaba mysticism actually existed at the same time that Christianity was being created. And so when you have this debate about what is incarnated God, it's actually found in Taoism as the Yangshen, what's called the Yangshen. So the truth of the logos is like the highest level of the noumena, and the noumena is the logos is what you see as light. And so there's this conflation of sound with light. So they're saying, well, the logos is not what you listen to, but so then that got transferred to be like the written word is what you see. But in fact, originally it meant like the light was so bright that you can't see anymore. Um, so therefore you can't see God, and to have an image of God is idolatry. That was the original meaning of the logos as light. And it's tied to what I argue is the secret of the logos as creative fire is or what the Stoics call noumena, which also means breath of which is found in Judaic philosophy also. So the secret of the breath as the light is this same secret of music theory that I discovered. So I sent him a email about that, just to let him know that my research is out there in case he wants to check it out. But let's see. Yeah, so he's arguing basically that both Orthodox Judaism and Orthodox Christianity are wrong, and that there's this secret teaching of the Logos that is correct. And so I said, well, yeah, that's what I discovered also. And then there's also the fact that this new research that the oldest form of Judaism actually is based on Zoroastrian philosophy, as found in Elephantine, Egypt. And the Zoroastrian philosophy the is the origin of the burning bush for Moses. That the bush was a later interpolation added to this idea that the light is talking to you as the source of God, and it's up high up on a mountain. That this is like the guy who did that research. He basically proves that it's Zoroastrian origin, but also that they drank halma, which is the psychedelic drink that the was soma in India. It's argued that that's the same as the DMT visionary drink by combining acacia root and Syrian rue. And I did have Syrian rue with Omisa hostilis, so I did experience that very strong visionary state. And you hear a loud om sound from your heart. When you take it on a really deep level, you hear this om, coming like both inside you and outside you. And Qigong Master Chen Yulin says he can hear that om as the everywhere emanating as the truth of the universe. And so, Zoroastrianism is basically hi, thanks. It's directly tied to Vedic philosophy. They're like complementary opposites. So like my name in Zoroastrianism means demon or devil, spelled with a J, and then with an H in like Druj, and then with an H in Sanskrit it means angel. So they're like complementary opposites. So anyway, I'm just really glad to have discovered Daniel Boyarin. I'm finishing a talk he gave at Yale Divinity School. Um, I'll post a link here. He's retired now, so he's pretty much like reiterating his arguments about the the third. Well, he's basically argues that Paul really was Platonic philosophy, what Paul was teaching, and that he gets into Justin Martyr and stuff, which I mean, I already knew that Justin Martyr is relying on Numenius, who was a Platonic philosopher. But what's really interesting is that the Pythagorean, what's his name? Well, some of those Pythagorean philosophers they lived in Syria at the same time as the Christianity was developing. So I think the idea that the Syrian Christianity, which had that strange thing about the milk of the Logos and the Holy Spirit being the womb of God, and the milk turns into the spermaticus, the Logos spermaticos, which is what creates new matter as it incarnated, of all of reality. And that's really the same as Taoist alchemy. When you look at that, the cerebral spinal fluid, and it comes down. I go into that in my training manual, the Ancient Advanced Acoustic Alchemy book. So I do think that there definitely was like a secret Pythagorean teaching in early Christianity and Judaism. And I also think that, well, this is what Gurdjieff also argued. So I have a couple articles, that the truth of Gurdjieff philosophy is the secret of music theory that he called the law of three. And I think that the Westerners studying Gurdjieff, they tend to miss that secret of the law of three because they get stuck on his. He still had some Platonic philosophy that was too Western in my view. So you know, like he was easily misunderstood by Westerners because they're imposing that like the enneagram stuff. That's just like Western mathematics where they're using decimals and stuff like that, which assumes a symmetric logic. And anyway, yeah, so I will finish this lecture by Daniel Boyarin. But he says he started out in his early life as a Zionist, and then he actually moved to Israel, and then he realized that it was a big mistake, and he's totally anti-Zionist now, which I thought, that's pretty cool that he had that transformation. And he taught at Berkeley. Um, yeah, so he's just done like really fascinating research. And of course, the Christians, they freak out. Like they seem to not like his research because they're like, if you read the book of John, clearly John 1 1, or whatever it is, the Logos is Jesus. It's not its own reality. But when I studied, the book of John when I was in eighth grade, we had a whole class just on the book of John. And I immediately realized the Logos was this Pythagorean music tuning secret. So I must, I think must have been 15. I don't know, but um, maybe I didn't know the details of the music tuning secret until I took the music theory class and I noticed, well, why can't the perfect fifth be an undertone? Because empirically, it is an undertone. And, you know, my music teacher was just like, well, because of logarithms, it has to be logarithms. And then I'm like, well, no, because when you listen to it, you know, it can be both an undertone or an overtone. That's empirically the truth. And I just stuck to my guns. I didn't say anything more. And then when I took quantum physics and I learned the Dirac dance, then I realized, wait a second, that's the exact same paradox of the two-thirds and three-halves as both the undertone and overtone at the same time is the truth of the tetractys, that 1, 2, 3, 4 of the logos. And then I discovered that the biosonics book by John Boulot, or whatever how you say the French name, but saying that the Taoist yang is two-thirds and yin is three-fourths. And and so then I'm like, oh, so that's why qigong works, is the same. This is what, because I had already experienced the qigong master at that point in 1995. Anyway, yeah, so then I discovered Alan Khan talking about music theory and saying it's the truth of quantum physics. And I'm like, well, maybe he's just being metaphorical. And I mean, in a way, he is being metaphorical, but he's not. He's literally using the same mathematics and saying, this is what our brains do. He's saying it's the truth of quantum biology. And yeah, so at that point, it's then I was like, okay, well, maybe this is secretly in, early Christianity, and it just got covered up. And anyway, we probably will never know, but I think it solves a lot of paradoxes, like in the all these religious arguments that people have. Of course, like, I mean, it's hard to believe the experience of the mystics, unless you actually experience a spiritual master, the energy healing and all that. So I don't like. I've been going to Bible class and people wanted me to share, and I'm like, no, because if I try to explain, you know, people wouldn't understand, or they would freak out because it definitely goes against everything people learn. As soon as you learn the Pythagorean theorem in school when you're like 14 or whatever, then you've been indoctrinated into Platonic philosophy, which is materialistic idealism. But when you look at Orthodox Christianity, it's really the same thing. And that's why like Augustine was basically, just Platonic philosophy. And then like if you read David F. Noble's books on the religion of technology, and he's just explains, well, Western science came out of the monasteries, and ever since John Scotus Erigena in the ninth century, which was from he got it from Islam. He got it from Islamic philosophy that was also Platonic. So you can see, well, like it doesn't matter whether it's Orthodox Judaism or Islam or Orthodox Christianity, it's all the same problem of Platonic philosophy that's then destroying life on Earth as like through this. Basically, I mean, I'm not saying that every problem on the planet is from Western philosophy, because I think you find the same patriarchal problems in other cultures or so-called cultures that are based on pederasty and stuff. I mean, it's unfortunately it's a sad reality that's hidden. The evil's hidden, but the good is hidden also. So it's kind of ironic. Like you can, if you really practice this stuff, you will experience energy. You'll see the light. You'll have healing abilities and all that. And but you have to really practice it, and the whole culture is against it. So um, if I just sat in my room and meditated, it's like, well, I'd be just completely wasting my time. According to our culture. And so the priests and the rabbis, they don't do that either. But you get someone like uh was it the flying monk Joseph de Cupertino, and he's a rare example of he experienced all these abilities, most famously levitation. So did Saint Teresa de Avila. And so there's these rare Christian mystics that they take, like, they just pray really seriously with their eyes closed, and they're completely fanatical about it. And then next thing you know, the church doesn't know what to do with them because they're exhibiting, I mean, Joseph de Cupertino, he had precognition, he had telepathy, he had healing abilities, all this, everything. Like he couldn't control it though. I mean, he would levitate, and it wasn't his choice to do it. And I think it was the same with Saint Teresa, like, de Villa, she would start levitating, but it would just happen to her. It wasn't like she had control over it. So pretty interesting. And that's like with the Qigong masters. I was reading an early New York Times article about Qigong master when it first got known by the West, and they said, this is a secret training, and the hardest part is to learn how to control the chi, because you have to store it in your body and store it up. And it's pretty wild because you even find that in early Christian philosophy. They talk about the noumena. I think it's I think it's Joseph or Justin Martyr talking about the noumena, that you have to store it up. That he says that some people have more noumena than other people, which is really like that would be hard for people to understand unless they studied like yoga meditation, which they also talk about the gut. One of the Syrian teachings, I think I can't remember which one, but or it might have been Theophrastus. I think it was Theophrastus who said that he's talking about the gut of God or something, and you don't realize that. Well, actually, in the original spiritual training, the strongest source of the power, the spiritual power, is in the gut. Which it gets really strange. So anyway, oh, happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way. I am 9% Irish, and my great grandmother was 75% Irish. So I'm gonna have to look up her genealogy again. It's one of the families. Her mom was Hanley, but her dad's one of her dad's parents, her dad's mom was also Irish, I think, and I can't remember her name, so I gotta look that up. So it'd be my great great grandmother. Great, yeah, something like that. Anyway, so thanks.